All right, let's go through the poem line by line and analyze it, which means to break it down into smaller parts to understand it better, give it bigger meaning, things like that. About suffering, they were never wrong. The old masters. Now, the old masters refers to any painter of skill who worked in Europe before about 1800, the year 1800, or a painting by such an artist. So right here, the author Auden is saying the old masters, the old painters, were never wrong about suffering. How well they understood its human position, how it takes place. So again, he's saying the old masters really understood how humanity positions itself and how humanity works. Now, right here it says how it takes place. And the language is not specific here, but let's look. This pronoun probably refers to the birth of Jesus, and I'll tell you why in just a minute, but it could also refer to other historical events. So sometimes, instead of using specific language right here, so instead of saying how the birth of Jesus takes place, authors will replace it with a more kind of ambiguous pronoun. That way, it could apply to other historical events. Because in this poem, Auden is trying to send a message out about, like we discussed, human indifference to significance and human indifference to suffering. So in this poem's case, this it is talking about the significant event of the birth of Jesus, but there are other significant events in history, and the human position or the human reaction to it could be the same then. So the reference to the birth of Jesus comes through this painting. This is another Bruegel painting, which was also held at the Art Museum in Belgium that we looked at. This one is called The Census at Birmingham. A census is where people or populations go to be counted. Birmingham is where oh, guys, I hope you find this funny. Um, as funny as I do. This is the funny part about living in Alabama. Um, this is this is not Birmingham. This is Bethlehem. Bethlehem. So I'm gonna fix it here for you so you can get a good laugh out of that. This is the census at Bethlehem, as in O Little Star of Bethlehem, which was where Jesus is born. So already in the painting, we can see several things going on. People are skating, people are tending to their carts, people are gathering over here for some reason, they're gathering over here for some reason. Maybe this is an inn. It's not very certain. But the poem is referencing things going on in this painting. And what I'm doing here is kind of zooming in on the painting for you. So the picture that you just saw comes from right over here. And then you'll see a close-up of here, and I think here as well. So these are lines from the poems. These are lines from the poem. While someone else is eating or opening a window or walking dully along. So remember, the author was saying, it happens, something significant. The birth of Jesus happens while somebody else is just eating or just opening a window or just walking dully along, minding their own business. How, when the aged are reverently, passionately waiting for the miraculous birth, there always must be. Now, I chose this part of the painting to accompany these lines because here is where you see Joseph, who was a carpenter, and Mary here, as well as likely baby Jesus in this basket. So, or this could be goods that they're carrying. So here they are on their way to Bethlehem. I think those are goods. That's probably not baby Jesus yet, but this is Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. And it's really not the focal point of the painting, was it? Let's go look. Yeah, looking at this, it doesn't seem like it's at Bethlehem. Now, I will note this. Bruegel's paintings are not set in like the historical times. He kind of adapts it to the modern life. So this is probably more like 1500s Europe as far as the buildings and the carts go and everything like that. And then you have the people who are not European. They would be Middle Eastern in Bethlehem, and they wouldn't have all this over here. So keep that in mind. There always must be children who did not specially want it to happen, skating on a pond at the edge of the wood. So here in the poem you can see that Auden is referencing these few children over here who are skiing across some frozen land, playing whatever this is, maybe really early hockey. This is some kind of sled that they're playing on. Obviously, they don't seem to care too much that Mary and Joseph just rolled up to Bethlehem. The next painting that Auden references is the same artist, Bruegel, and it is a painting of an event that went on around the time of Mary, Joseph, and Jesus. But again, he has adapted this historical event and set it during his time, or I think during the time of, oops, the Spanish army, I believe this is over here. So just remember that this is not what it looked like when Jesus was born. So this one is called The Massacre of the Innocents. It is a depiction of after King Herod had made an order that all children younger than 2 years old should be murdered. And this was Herod's way of finding Jesus, the child Jesus, and killing him. So this is an historical adaptation set in a different time, but it is based on that event, the Massacre of the Innocents. They never forgot that even the dreadful martyrdom must run its course. So if you zoom into this painting, I think one of these is from here, one of those zoom ins is from here, the other one is way over here, so you have to zoom in a whole lot to see what's going on. But as you can see, the soldiers are taking the children from mothers to be killed. So I think that is some of the brilliancy of Bruegel, is that when you just look at his paintings, they're beautiful, but when you really zoom into them, there's a lot of tragedy going on. Anyhow, in a corner, some untidy spot, where the dogs go on with their doggy life, and the torturer's horse scratches its innocent behind on a tree. So again, the author of this poem, Auden, is trying to capture the message of Bruegel's painting, which is the dogs over here playing don't care that the children are being murdered. This horse who's scratching its bottom on a tree doesn't care that the children are being murdered. That horse is way over there in that tiny spot, and the dogs are here. So again, you've got to zoom in a whole lot. Now, this is where the poem shifts from talking about the two paintings that we just saw, which were the census at Bethlehem, not Birmingham, and the Massacre of the Innocents. So we switch from those two paintings to we focus on the landscape the landscape with the fall of Icarus. So remember, it's a landscape first, but it happens to feature the fall of Icarus. Let's read the lines. In Bruegel's Icarus, for instance, how everything turns away quite leisurely from the disaster. So we know that the disaster is here. Icarus has fallen out of the sky, he flew too close to the sun, and he splashed into the waves. Now it says how everything turns away quite leisurely, which is quite calmly, from the disaster. A very interesting thing about this painting is that you can follow the line of sight for all these characters. So this guy's looking this way, the horse is looking this way, this fellow's looking up, even the sheep have turned their heads, the pigeon over here is looking that way, this fellow is looking down into the water, all the ships are facing away. No one is looking at what's going on with Icarus, who literally just fell out of the sky. It's not like it's not noticeable. The plowman may have heard the splash, the forsaken cry, but for him it was not an important failure. A failure, maybe. He probably heard it, he probably saw it, but he says, you know what? I've got some plowing to do. I don't really know that guy. I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing. The sun shone as it had to on the white legs disappearing into the green water. So here we see Icarus in the water, and we see the feathers fluffed all around him. And the expensive, delicate ship that must have seen something amazing, a boy falling out of the sky, had somewhere to get to and sailed calmly on. So I think out of every character in this picture, this ship is probably the only one who has a real chance to save Icarus. They could throw him a line, throw him a lifeboat, something like that. But what the author of the poem and the painter of the painting is saying here is that they still had things to do, and they decided that Icarus was not his business, or was not their business. So the questions you have to answer about the poem today are, what does Auden say about the world and or society through this poem? What is his main message? So what is he saying about humankind? Is Auden's interpretation of the painting fair? Do you think the painter created the painting to be thought about in this way? Why? So when Bruegel was painting, do you think that he meant for Auden to see the painting this way? Or do you think he just thought it looked nice? And finally, you'll need to choose a painting from a museum using the Google Arts and Culture website. Write a poem. It does not have to rhyme, so it can be in prose about this painting, or write a brief story that you think it tells. Make sure to tell me the title of your painting and the name of the artist who painted it. Also, make sure to use that zoom in feature to see more detail in the painting. Here's a tutorial. So you are going to go to Google Arts and Culture website. You'll go to the collections section, which I believe is over here. And then you'll be able to choose from a series of museums. So these are all different museums and they have certain collections. And let's go to, say, Starry Night, for example. So if you wanted to choose Starry Night, you would click on it here. And it looks nice and cool like that, right? But if you click on this zoom in lens, go over here to the little picture and then click that zoom in button. And you will be able to see so much more detail if you give it a second to load. Look at how clear that is. And you can really, really see the depth of the strokes, everything like that. It's really quite amazing if you've never used Google Arts and Culture. So go choose a painting of your choice. It does have to be school appropriate, and examine it, analyze it, tell a story that you think that it tells.